with Travis O'Rourke. He's president of the recruiting firm Hayes. And Travis, you always sort of bring a different perspective than the economists because you're dealing with sort of what the trends look like on the ground. First of all, for those who are trying to figure out, is the Canadian jobs market hot or is it not? What's your overall view on where we are?
I would say
right
it's weaker, it's weakening, it's definitely not weak. And it probably depends on what area that you play in. As you kind of indicated, really it's population growth that's really causing that unemployment rate to tick up. You know, previously, if we added 27,000 jobs, we probably wouldn't blink. But when you see that number continuing to move up, it's largely related to immigration. And
so right now, you've got a lot of people wondering, okay, the Bank of Canada, they cut interest rates this week. Part of that is because they're anticipating some cool down. So when it comes to the jobs market going forward, what do you think it looks like, you know, the next 4, 5, 6 months?
Like last month was a surprise, right? We got the big 90,000 hit. I think this was kind of more in line with what we expected last month, but I still see growth coming because with construction losing 30,000 jobs this month, we've obviously got a housing crisis, we've got a rate decrease, there's a lot of heat building up as people want to buy homes, but more importantly, we need to build them. And I think as we start to break ground more projects come off the shelf, we're going to see numbers climb up in construction, which we desperately need as a country.
So let's just chew on that for a second. So construction jobs cool off because we keep talking about high interest rates.
That's right.
Keeps builders on the sidelines.
That's right.
So now the Bank of Canada cuts interest rates. Maybe they cut more. Maybe that gives builders a little bit more confidence to build, but you're saying now there's a smaller pool of construction workers at the ready?
Yeah, like skilled trades is an area where we've had skill shortages for quite some time, construction as a whole. And when we look at the millions of homes that we need to build, we absolutely do not have the talent to do that. So when these projects start, when some of these government initiatives come in and funding gets improved, we're still going to have a skill shortage. In my opinion, that's going to further drive up the wage increases that we saw today jump to 5.2%.
So that's interesting. So understanding the driving factors on wages is very important because immediately the economists all key into what wage growth looks like.
Yes.
And, you know, the storyline we were telling earlier was that, yes, wage growth grew, but maybe it cools off going forward. Obviously, we'll have to see what wage growth looks like for construction. But if for the wage growth that we actually saw in May, because there was wage growth in the month, what do you think was the driving factor for that?
I think there's still a lot of jobs that are incredibly in demand. And we've seen healthcare or healthcare-related roles increase 3 straight months. We have an aging population. The spend per person is increasing. Healthcare is probably going to continue to grow. But technology is going to be a huge role in that as well. I think we don't have nearly enough tech workers. We're not graduating. We're not bringing enough new tech workers into the country. And if you're a software developer, or lucky you've got experience with an AI, you can pretty much write your own ticket at this point.
So it almost sounds to me like you're getting into some very important long-term issues we're dealing with as a country, which the Bank of Canada can't necessarily solve with a blunt tool like interest rates. Because, you know, everybody's talking about, well, you had a stronger than expected jobs report and some wage growth, but the economy is cooling, and so that wage growth story is going to cool off. But if we don't have enough tech workers, if we have an aging population, as you mentioned, and we don't have enough people who are at the ready to move into that, if we have to solve the housing issue and we're still dealing with a tight supply, that would seem to me like those are the kinds of things that would sort of keep the inflation story in those particular pockets of the economy.
Yeah, pocket's the right word. We kind of want to stay in that pocket where we see wage growth outpacing inflation, but we need to see inflation cool down. Right now, we seem to be doing an okay job. But I'm really interested to see, do we get a July rate cut? Does construction really take off? Do we start addressing that housing boom? And if you do, that supply and demand over construction workers is only going to add to the heat that we saw in the wage numbers today.
A lot of people on a day like this will very quickly compare Canada to the United States.
Yes.
And the market conclusion is that even though both countries created more jobs than what analysts expected, that the U.S. economy seems to be in a much stronger spot today than the Canadian economy. When you're sort of taking the pulse and talking to peers stateside, would you say that seems correct?
I think so, but it was like Trudeau Sr. about being next to the U.S. is like sleeping with an elephant, and how much we can divulge from that rate cut that we've made here, watching the Fed. And if the U.S. doesn't start to cut, we're just going to have to slow down what we do. And then again, that construction pressure is likely to continue.
Like, do you notice there are American employers that are in reasonably good shape, and then that creates some job demand on the margins for Canadians?
Absolutely. Now, the challenge we've got with American employers right now is we've got an election coming. And depending on who gets in, whether work needs to be onshore, how that's going to affect immigration policy. Typically, you'd see a lot of American organizations moving work to Canada. But with an election coming up, it's unclear as to how friendly that policy will be. So people are still kind of sitting on the sidelines for that one as well.